Howdy, folks.
I don't think the sound played during that. Did you hear it? Because I didn't hear it on my end.
Well, that sucks. I had intro music and everything.
You want to try it again real quick and just play it again? Listen, we got to do it again. Do it the way you want to do it, man. I don't care.
You know what I think it is? I think I didn't hit audio also.
So do it again. Just play it again real quick.
Okay, so for those of you folks that
if you saw what we showed, don't say anything. Shh, it's a secret. Spoiler alert. Okay. Don't tell nobody. Just try it again there, bud. You can do it. You can do it.
Let's see. Okay, so the intro here. I'm not really sure what happened, but it wasn't really giving me the option to. Let's see. How about now? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, well, whatever.
So, hi everybody. If you haven't figured it out, we had some technical difficulties before the show started.
A few.
Alamo had an internet outage right before we were going to go live. He's like, "Fucking seriously?" So yeah, and then this music wouldn't play. Alamo worked really hard on the intro, kind of putting all this stuff together. Had some really like ominous sounding music and really good stuff too, like production value. But
yeah, if the music would have played, that sucks.
Yeah. Oh well. But welcome to the season 4 finale of the Battle Bros podcast with myself, Mac, and my wonderful co-host Alamo. Welcome. How the hell are you? As you saw already, this episode is 088. Again, the season 4 finale, and we are talking about evil. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. If you haven't done so, please feel free to go to our social media pages, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so you get all the announcements and notifications whenever we have new stuff coming out. All that good stuff. If you haven't been on the show before, Alamo and I are two friends from high school that have known each other for a long time. And yeah. And we have a podcast talking about stuff as it relates to the military / veteran community, but also first responders as well, police, fire, EMS, dispatch, all those people. We're not leaving anybody out. But hey, if you don't fall into one of those groups, but you still feel like you have some connection to what we're talking about, cool. Glad to have you. So yeah, if you caught our show last week, which was episode 087, we talked about maturity. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember because it's been a shit of a week.
He couldn't remember.
I couldn't remember. You remember? You remember? No, I don't remember. So
remember Star Wars? Remember Chewbacca? How awesome Chewbacca? Yeah, I remember.
I forget who it was. There was a comedian talking about, hey, listen, dude, Star Wars is really about Mexicans. You got a dude named Chewie who's a mechanic. Come on, man. Everybody knows a mechanic named Chewie. Chewie. And then you got the one guy who fixes everything. Or do you? Or do you? I want to say it was Felipe Esparza. I think that's the guy's name. He put funny shit. It was just like, that's awesome. So yeah, it's hard. So a little bit of reflection here first, folks. It seems unreal that we're at the end of season 4. That is just crazy talk. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Sure enough, yeah.
I mean, this kind of started as a fluke, sort of. The concept of this, we were just joking around one day, and I was like, we should work together. We should do something fun. We should hang out. We should work together. Let's do something. Let's get the band back together. And I was like, what do you got in mind? Podcast? I don't know nothing about that. It just can't be that hard. And then we found out about our good friend John. And John is no longer with us, unfortunately. And then this kind of stopped being funny. It was like, yeah, like this is serious stuff. So, and you've heard us say this every episode. And I'm sorry for those of you that are hearing it again. But it's important to remember where you came from. It's important to remember your roots. And yeah, that was like 3+ years ago. July of 2021 is when we started this journey. And it's just like, holy crap, we're at the end of season 4. We had a longer than expected sabbatical between season 3 and season 4 because of having some technical issues, had to replace a computer and just money being tight at the same time. So, but
funny thing, it was both of us that had to release a computer.
It ended up being both of us. Yeah,
Go figure.
You did it, and then I did it finally. So,
Yeah.
But yeah,
mine got fried in a lightning storm. Yours was just old as dirt.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we kept. We'll be there. And then we finally get back on here, and it's like, holy crap! This has been like just an insane thing. So, yeah, it's still kind of surreal. Like, we're a dozen episodes away from hitting the century mark. So season 5, when we come back, it's like 12 episodes in. We're
episode.
Yeah, that's like weird. We're gonna have to like do something kind of special for that. So brainstorm now.
Indeed.
Anyway, so yeah, we try to do something a little bit like they're all meaningful, but we try to do something that's really going to be noteworthy and really stick conversation wise when we do an episode that's at the end of the season. The first one we did, we talked about suicide. We had Christine on. It ended up being like a 2-hour conversation. That was a great talk. She's an expert, not an expert, but she's like a wealth of knowledge on like suicide recovery and just helping yourself out. And then for the episode 2, we had Gino on, and that was recovery. And then I forget what we did for the end of season 3. That was I don't remember. I gotta look it up now. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Season 3 was Identity. That's right. That was a decent one. So for this one, if you didn't see the promo, this is episode 088, the season 4 finale, and we're going to be talking about evil. And it's kind of something that, people will think, yeah, it exists, but they really don't give it too much thought. And I don't blame them for that, because you can really go down that psychological, mental rabbit hole about how much evil shit there really is in the world.
Yep.
And so this kind of started, the idea for this started, so hold you got, admin halt, pause. We're not getting into politics tonight. However, the source of this kind of has something to do with that. So the idea of evil came from, a couple of things. I was watching, we were sitting back a few weeks ago, like a few months ago, and the assassination attempt on former President Trump came up, and it's just like, people still try to do that crap, because I had just recently watched a documentary on Amazon Prime about all of the medical staff, the doctors, and everybody that were at the hospital where they took JFK after he was assassinated, and like all the different things that went on with that, how the military was involved, discrepancies and different things, and like the whole conspiracy theory behind it. That was some pretty fascinating stuff. And it's like, for you to come up with the idea, it's like, it's okay to disagree. You can agree to disagree, but for you to disagree so much and to loathe somebody so much that you're like, I should rid the world of you. It's like, that's some pretty evil shit. Again, not getting into the politics
Absolutely
of it,
it
but
is.
just for the idea of, I don't like you, I'm going to take you out and like get you gone. Plus the fact, we're talking about, it's been 3 years since they shut down Afghanistan, and the Taliban are a bunch of evil son bitches, bunch of evil assholes. I just watched also the movie The Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal. He's like an Army Special Forces guy, has an interpreter, comes up and pretty much like saves his life and all this kind of stuff, and then kind of pays him back for the deed that he did. Really great movie. I had never really seen too many Guy Ritchie films, and I was like, the cinematography of it and everything else, I was like, wow, that's really cool. But like,
Yeah.
It's one of those movies, man. It really brought me back to like going to Afghanistan, and I was just like, at any moment you could just get iced by some evil fucking dudes. And it's just
I've yet to see the movie, but I do want to see the movie because I heard some good reviews about it.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, they did a good job. The stuff looks correct. It looks right. But like the whole, like the storyline, it just like it, even for being an Army guy and for being, a GWAT veteran, for being a dude, it's like the plot line, you're just like, oh, fuck, dude. Like the whole, like the intro, the story and all that stuff, like it just really, really, really gets you. You're just like, dude, like, what do you do from that? And I'm not going to give anything away. But yeah, so the whole concept of evil has kind of just been lurking for like the last good month and a half, just from the different things that I've watched. The JFK documentary, watching the whole, attempted assassination on President Trump, and then watching that movie and stuff. So it's like it's kind of been a lingering thought just about all the stuff in the world that's evil. I mean, I'd like to think, hold on, whoops, drop some. I'd like to think that, the things that are good in the world get just as much airplay or as much attention. They get enough time in front of the news cameras, as you hopefully think that the good stuff gets enough time as the evil, and that's not always the case. Like there was Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right, dude. Like, I mean, you talk about, I mean, what is the news? You look at the news, what is it? What do they cover? Oh, this man stabbed, 3 kids, this guy shot up a bunch of people in, some area in Chicago. This guy, was race baiting this guy, blah, 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 blah. Like it's the negativity sells nowadays. And the issue that I see is that negative media coverage is the coverage. There's no in-betweens anymore. There's no positivity because, well, for whatever reason,
get clicks. It doesn't get attention. It doesn't get people to read it.
Call it, I guess, human nature's morbid curiosity, but
I guess we're shit personally.
Yeah, also true.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, dude, but it drives me nuts how negative shit. Oh, one heartwarming little happy story at the end, so we can say that we ended on a good, positive note. Thank you,
oh, Fluffy the kitten.
Mass media, for fucking getting my blood pressure up, making me take anxiety medication, you jackasses.
It's like death. Oh, Fluffy the kitten.
Baby kittens.
Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's freaking stupid, dude.
It's retarded. It's so dumb.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of where, I think of it this way, like leaning into our conversation or leaning into our subject our subject for tonight, that's kind of where evil kind of, I believe, starts to take its foothold. If you give evil the attention it wants, evil is going to find a way to
foster and fester.
foster. Yeah, and it's going to be and it's going to spread in many different aspects of life, whether that be through war crimes, through which we'll probably discuss tonight,
Yeah, but as
through
Fat Electrician says,
murders in the streets.
As Fat Electrician says, it's not a war crime the first time.
Yeah.
And if you know what we're talking about,
proportionate.
You should check him out. Fat Electrician channel. That's awesome. He's funny as shit.
Check him out.
So to kind of double tap what we were talking about, we're gonna do what we always do, and we're gonna define evil. If you didn't know, which I think everybody should know, but it's kind of the formula we follow, and that's Plan of Attack. So evil is defined as profoundly immoral and wicked, the opposite of good. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
And so one of the things, remember one of the images that just popped into my head when you think about evil? There's a great scene in Fifth Element. Lily was sitting there learning about American culture and history and all that stuff and language. So she types in WAR. She types in war, and all these images come up. And you see some of the stuff, kind of like what we had in the intro. You see, Adolf Hitler speaking in front of the crowd of people, acting like he's a magnanimous leader. When the people are cheering him on, there's Nazi soldiers behind them with machine guns going, "You better clap for the Fuhrer or I will shoot you down." Don't do it. Don't try me.
Where are your peppers? Do you have your peppers?
No, I don't have any peppers. I don't grow peppers because you took all my food, you Nazi bastards. Anyway, yeah. But I mean, you look at all those people like Charles Manson. You get into some serial killers. Look at some evil fucking people, man. Just like holy shit. John Wayne Gacy. You've got who's the guy that everybody?
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy. That was horrible. That guy was absolutely terrible.
He was fucking just awful. Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer. That's the one that everyone was watching. Just like, Jeffrey Dahmer's so cool. No, he's eating people. Like Jesus. There's just evil's evil, man. So, all right. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's kind of roll this back a little bit. So I figured we'd talk about some stuff, like sometimes like memories or experiences that we've had that we can remember that are just profoundly evil. And the one image that that I recall immediately is being in Afghanistan. We were two vehicle convoy. I was in the rear truck. I was a turret gunner, and I was facing to the rear. So I'm watching everything go from behind me to the front of me. So like you're waving at kids and stuff, and this little girl waved at me, and I waved back, and then this guy just looked at her after she waved at me, and he just went up and just started wailing on her, and I was just like, all because of the flag I wore in my uniform, because of what I stood for, what I, symbolized, I was a symbol of in his head. He's like, nope, can't have that. And like, this kid must have been like anywhere between 6 to 10 years old, and like a little girl too, man. And it's just like that really fucked with my head for like a good month. I was just like, ugh. Like, I got to the point where like I would maintain my situational awareness, but I just would block out all the pictures of the kids and stuff. I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want to wave at them. Just kind of like did the whole Forrest Gump thing. I don't want to wave at you because I don't want you getting beat up because I did something to you, because I'd feel like shit and I'd fucking get out of that turret and whoop that dude's ass, that person's ass. So that's kind of the image that I think of, and like if you want to see something similar to that, like I said, the movie The Covenant, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, great contemporary war classic, I think. And, to me, that's a good one. What do you got?
Well, one thing I can actually talk about, which it speaks to the enemy that we were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were, there was an evening where we were on patrol. I remember it very vividly because it was a night mission, first of all. And I know there was just something off about the area that we had been patrolling. There was a building that had been on fire at one point, an apartment, but that had just been absolutely freaking torched. And and I never really thought about it at the time, but there were, you know, items inside that building that just spoke, you know, basically whoever, well, we know who our enemy was, but whoever they were, were trying to take out whoever these individuals were. You know, we went to the backyard and we ended up finding, what we thought was a cache. Um, and I never, never, never forgot this, because when we went to the back and we started digging up these spots that we thought like, oh, maybe they burned down the house to like show like, oh, like, they're trying to conceal what they had there, trying to, hide what they had. Freaking, all I remember is we were digging, and I remember, I'll never forget it. Staff Sergeant Crow, who was one of our squad leaders, Staff Sergeant Crow, he took his shovel and he shoved it down, because I guess he was trying to get in around the edges of this spot that we could tell had been dug out. And he did like this, and he went and he pushed down on it. And I remember when he hit like that, all of a sudden, just a smell, just god awful smell. Like I for those of you who have smelled death, you don't forget that smell. Okay. You don't, it's, once you smell it, you never forget it. You're never going to forget that smell. And if you smell it like anywhere, you're going to be like, oh God, something happened, or somebody's done. Well, when he did that, and all of a sudden he just, like he literally almost puked. So we're trying to figure out like, okay, what the hell is this? We kept digging. Turns out there were two gentlemen. I'm willing to bet, from the amount of decay, they had been there for at least a couple weeks. But it's crazy because they still had at least one of them in particular still had a decent amount. Like, you could see that there was a little bit missing here, and there was still a good amount of flesh on the guy's face. He even still had his facial hair. The enemy had executed these guys, and whatever was in that house I'm going to assume it was these guys that lived there. The enemy executed them for reasons that we have no idea to this day. Like, well, me specifically, we have no idea because I believe, um, was it CID? I can't remember. I can't even remember who. Somebody took over. Somebody started investigating what was going on there after we found what essentially was like shallow burial site for people that had been literally mercilessly murdered. When we found them, basically these guys, it was one shot here, and what we knew, like the reason the flesh was peeled up here was because the guy was shot here and the bullet exited here, so it basically blew out one or a couple of his teeth. So you had entrance wound, exit wound, and it was the same thing with the other guy that we found. And they torched the building that they lived in, because I guess if you're the enemy, you're the enemy of the enemy. There has to be no trace of you left.
Yeah.
And it's just that, like, it made me think of what, you know, a lot of these communist parties did, and a lot of like what, you know, Nazi Germany did, like uh what was it, that group the Nazis that were essentially execution crews before they actually came up with the gas chambers. I believe it was
The SS.
The SS came just a little bit after them. They were starting to come up. I'm trying to remember the name of the group, and I'm having an absolute brain fart. But basically, they went through Poland, and these guys single-handedly executed, I mean, in the tens of thousands. A group of, I think, about 1,000 soldiers. The tens of thousands is what they executed. How did they do it? That's how they did it. And, you know, everything I remembered from history, seeing that just made me think of something like that when I saw, I mean, granted, obviously I had the other guys around me. I mean, and you know, we kind of were, as young soldiers, young grunts do, kind of
Hey,
make
was
light of
it the Einsatzgruppen?
Einsatzgruppen. Yes, the Einsatzgruppen. They were essentially an execution squad.
Yeah, it
But
pretty much
literally,
translates to
that
mobile
find when
killing
we found
units.
that. Yeah,
Jesus.
that right there, that's what came to mind for me, along with many other things. You know, because let's not forget. I mean, many dictatorial freaking regimes did this throughout history. You have obviously the Einsatzgruppen from the Nazi Germany. You have, you know, the kill squads that went around executing people in China, when there were people that did not want to, that did not want to, stick with the communist regime. Um, and obviously, you had the Imperial Japanese Army that went through Nanking, which is now Nanjing, um, and which we'll discuss that here in a little bit. So I don't want to go too far into it, but it's 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 rough, man, and it reminds you that there's just people out there that can do just absolute heinous things, and you have to come to terms with the fact that that's what you're facing, that's what you're fighting. You know what I mean?
It's so crazy, and it's if you think about it, it's really frustrating that as humans, and I know this is fictitious writing and works that I'm citing here, but like, if you think about it, there's a lot of truth in the Matrix movies. Agent Smith is talking to Morpheus, and he says humans are like a virus. They go in, they infect. and they do, all this bad stuff, use up all the resources, all that kind of stuff. And you think about it, it's true. Oh, yeah, you do that so well. But we can make these, how easy it is for guys like Oppenheimer to make the atomic bomb. How easy it is for somebody like John Browning to make all these weapons of war. We're just kind of natural. And I'm not saying that those guys are inherently evil. Oppenheimer, I mean, from what I understand, he kind of dealt with that later on stuff. Like, it's so easy to
one thing you got to remember about Oppenheimer is that Oppenheimer by birth was actually Jewish. So when he went into the mindset of creating the bomb, his issue was that, look, the Nazis are going around killing, my people, essentially. He wasn't exactly a practicing Jew, but he still was Jewish. If I remember correctly, I believe a good portion of his family came from a portion of Europe where there was a predominantly Jewish community. And if I remember correctly, I'm not 100% on this, so don't quote me on it, but I think he did still have some family that was over there dealing with the Nazis. And when he saw what he was seeing, his first reaction was, well, if the Nazis are already working on something like this, we have to beat them to it. We can't let them win, because the original idea was to use the bomb on the Nazis in the case that they got out of hand. Essentially use the bomb on them before they use the bomb on us. Of course, history informs us that's not what happened. Obviously, we ended up using it on Japan. However, Oppenheimer was very defensive over, his I guess people of birth, I guess. And that's what led him to create the bomb. A good mindset led to what some could perceive as an evil act, which, I mean, obviously that's a whole debate in itself, but I mean,
sure, if you're doing something that's inherently bad, you stop somebody who's worse from doing it first. Does that make it right?
Exactly.
That's the question. So, yeah, I mean, you could go all the way into that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, let's get into talking about a little bit more stuff. So, what was interesting about us researching this subject is, as easy as you think it would be to talk about evil stuff, a lot of the material that we were coming up with and finding during our research had a little bit of a religious undertone, and that is
non-secular.
Right. It is important to discuss these things, right? But that's really not the kind of focus we were going to. That's not the way that we wanted to necessarily go for this conversation.
Correct.
So we a few articles that left it a little bit more generic, evil, but just not from the point of from the point of religion or dealing with a certain church or something like that. So I'm going to read a couple of those. They're not too long. They're kind of shorter. This one is 12 Signs You Are Dealing with an Evil Person. It is from thecitynewsroom.com. This is from 2018 by Marian Ansah. And I'm just going to read this. We don't really need to share this, Alamo. I'll just read through it real quick. Oh, I don't want to add. Thank you. So, evil is defined as the absence of good. Every person has different definitions of evil and goodness. However, in many cases, true evil is very hard to recognize, especially for
Devil.
people who always try to find something good in others. What did you say, 10-4? Oh, so to not put it up? Okay. That was just super delayed. My bad. We cannot ignore that there are truly evil people around us, and we need to learn how to notice the signals that show us when someone means nothing else but to harm us. Another thing that I thought, another movie reference I thought of, in the second Christopher Nolan Batman movie, The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger as Joker. Fantastic movie role.
When I was in Burma, there was a man who that you talking about that part?
Yeah, and if you're gonna do it, do the whole thing. Do you know the whole thing verbatim, or do you trying to show off here?
No, I just like Michael Caine's accent. But I know that I do know a good portion of that scene.
But you don't know the whole thing, so shut the hell up. Anyway, he's talking about like the definition of evil, and he says at the very end, he's like,
"Well,
some
because
people
he thought it was good sport, because he thought it was fun. Some people just can't be reasoned with. Some people, some men, just want to see the world burn."
Yeah, absolutely right. You know, there's people that just do evil stuff just to be evil because they're like they get off on it and stuff. But anyway, so here are some signs of dealing with evil people. Reality denial. Regardless of how obvious the truth is, these people will always deny it. Their truth is the only that matters, even though it is completely opposite of reality. Their truth is actually a reflection of their wicked, unhealthy thoughts or ideas. Fact twisting. These people are incredible manipulators. They are able to twist any fact that they do not want to accept. They possess ability to take things out of context and create a story that is in their favor. Hiding information. All information that they believe can compromise their goals will be immediately withheld. By keeping this information a secret, they believe they are not doing anything wrong, i.e., they do not consider this to be lying. However, if the silence harms others, then it is certainly lying. Moreover, that they will blame you and make you feel guilty for lacking trust. We also call this term narcissistic, manipulative,
narcissism,
all that stuff. Number 4, misleading people. What they are very good at is misleading you by making you feel attacked, incompetent, vulnerable, afraid, or hated. They achieve this by carefully choosing well-thought words. Constant lies. Whatever they may be talking about, they will always add juicy information because they feel satisfaction when they lie to other people. Like, it was funny, I was watching one of the shows that my mom and my daughter watch. They watch these shows about game words and stuff. And people, like, when they're doing something wrong, they inherently lie. Now, I'm not saying they're evil people, but it's just human behavior. It's just, why were you fishing? I went fishing. The film crew saw you fishing from a quarter mile away. You don't have a license. So, yeah, you're in trouble. It's insane how that works. Number 6, no remorse. These people will never feel sorry for hurting people. They enjoy destroying relationships or anything that other people find meaningful. They find pleasure in other people's sufferings. If they see something good, they will do all in their power to destroy it. Number 7, avoid responsibility. Lack of moral is one of the key traits of these people. Lack of morals. Excuse me. This article was not written very well because I'm looking. There's like typos all over this damn thing. They never admit or apologize for their mistakes.
Is your OCD ears burning?
No, but like that's like the punctuation's weird. That's why I sound like an idiot reading this thing. I'm like, I sound stupid. That's not the way I read. So yeah. Manipulators. Masters of manipulation is their second name. They always have a plan and will do anything to realize it. Fair weather friends. They change like the weather. They will be your friends when you are happy and successful. However, as soon as they face hardships, they will disappear. Do not expect support from them. They will be around you only if they can gain something. Number 10, time thieves. They cannot stand other people being successful, and they will do anything in their power to prevent them from realizing their plans. They hate when others are better than them. Number 11, double lives. They have a different story for everyone. You can never truly get a clear picture of who these people are. They often lead double lives, and no one really knows them well. And number 12, control freaks. They look at other people as their toys and want to have complete control over them. This can clearly be seen when they lose control over them and their true intentions appear on the surface. These traits can be found in many people, but if you notice more of them in one person, then it is time for you to distance from them and to eventually remove them from your life. Always be careful when somebody appears to be perfect. Try to be more attentive and observant of this person's interactions because you never know what truly lies beneath. Stay on my bed. Jeez. Anyway, so that was that one. And then this other one I found was pretty interesting. This talks about 10 modern evils. This is from 2008, actually. This is an older article. This is from the Herald. I want to say this might be from the UK. I'm not 100% certain. Try to get to the bottom.
If it's the heraldscotland.com.
I
would reckon so.
Jesus, it's right in front of me. The decline of community, the rise of individualism, consumerism, falling values, family breakdown, youth crime, drugs and alcohol abuse, poverty, immigration and racism, and crime. These, according to an influential think tank, are the 10 modern social evils facing British society today. It's been 100 years since Joseph Rowntree, the philanthropist and businessman, identified the social evils facing Britain in the first decade of the 20th century. He pinpointed poverty, war, slavery, intemperance, the opium trade, impurity, and gambling as the great scourges of humanity. A century later, the progressive think tank, which bears his name, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, had just completed a huge consultative exercise with the British people who identified the social ills that plague the UK today. Nearly 4,000 people were spoken to, including those whose voices are rarely heard. People who have been homeless, unemployed, and former prisoners. In order to properly reflect British society, the JRF made sure that young people and ethnic minorities were represented. Number 1, a decline in community. A weakened sense of community and neighborliness is seen as the first social evil. Interviewees felt that neighbors no longer looked out for each other or even know each other. This leaves people feeling isolated, lonely, and fearful, particularly the elderly or those on their own.
Think about what's going on right now.
Yeah. One man quiz said, quote, community spirit has broken down terribly over the last 20 or 30 years. Society has changed. It is a little more selfish and me, myself, and I. Individualism and selfishness. British people believe that the decline in our sense of community has gone hand in hand with the rise of individualism. Many of the thousands said that people increasingly look after their own interests without considering the needs of society. One person summed up the problem when they said, nothing is more important than my success, comfort, and convenience, and that of my family. Consumerism and greed, number 3. One person explained that their concerns with the rise of greed by saying, quote, everything seems to be based around money and owning things. The more you have, the more successful you are. There's nothing wrong with having enough, but there's pressure on people to go for more and more. It's like I tell people all the time, my mom and I have this conversation. It's like, she plays the lotto and she's like, come on, let's win, whenever they have the big one, when it rolls over to the $1 billion jackpot stuff. I'm like, I'm good. I just want to have if I win money and it's got 2 commas in it, it's $1 million. I'm good with that. live comfortably off of that stuff. I ain't trying to be the next Bill Gates. I'm not trying to be the next Elon Musk. I mean, a lot of that money that if I won a lot of money, I'd end up giving a lot of it away. You know?
I mean, typically, if you won $1 billion, you'd probably only get like 436 mil out of that because they tax the absolute dog crap out of
I get that.
that money.
But I wouldn't do anything exorbitant. Like I would do the things that I've always said I wanted to do, like things I can improve myself. Like I would learn. I would go to
Absolutely.
I'd go to pilot. I'd learn how to be a pilot. I'd learn how to fly a helicopter. I would do that. I would
Heck
make sure my
yeah.
daughter. I would make sure
I
my
wanna learn how
daughter
to fly a
has
helicopter.
right. I would make sure my daughter has plenty of money set aside for a scholarship. So when she decides that she wants to go to school, if she decides she wants to go to school, hopefully she will. You're going to school, by the way, Cora. That's covered. You ain't got to worry about that. She can go do the college experience, have fun. And I would hope that she would be a good enough, person and kid that she would not end up being one of these like trust fund kids that just go out there and acts like a brat. Everything negative with that stereotype. Like that's not saying that's her, and I hopefully it will be her. A decline in values. This one really kind of stuck out to me. So
Yep.
interviewees said that they felt the British people lacked a shared set of values which helped guide behavior. This failing was linked to growing individualism, selfishness, and consumerism. People were described as, quote, pursuing their own desires regardless of the potential harm to others, end quote. The decline of old-fashioned values such as honesty, tolerance, empathy, compassion, respect, and reciprocity was identified as having damaging consequences for society. It was felt that the decline in these old-fashioned values wasn't just at the individual level. The media, business, and the government were all criticized for being dishonest and self-serving.
Hey-o.
Move right along. Number 5, the decline of the family. Family breakdown and bad parenting were said to underlie many of the other social problems, leaving young people without guidance and support. While poor parenting did come in for criticism, others argued that mothers and fathers were doing the best in difficult circumstances. Many said that young parents should be given help acquiring the skills needed to raise children. Most agreed that a strong, stable family was important for children, but that there was a lot of disagreement about the importance of traditional family structure. To that, I will rebut with this. Yes, it also depends on the maturity and the mindset of that young parent, because you have these young parents that might be fucking up and fast forward, and they're not the kind of person that's going to take any damn help from anybody. So they're just going to sit there and mess up, and they're not going to think they're doing anything wrong because they're so headstrong or pig-headedly strong that they're just like, I got this, and you're just looking at them going.
Well, I mean, it falls back also onto that fact that, people have just gotten far more self-centered lately, Like, there was a part I agreed with and disagreed with earlier on, and I think it was number, what was it?
You got to tell me, dude. I was reading. Consumerism and greed.
With the number 2, I think it was number 2. Like, I agreed with the number 2, but
selfishness.
I agreed with number 2, but I also disagreed with it to a certain degree. I'm a very big proponent. I'm a very big proponent of when you take care of yourself, you can take care of others better because you have a better handle of how you can handle yourself. I feel like here in the United States, we were geared towards there being an importance on the individual person like we are not all the same. We are not the same individual. We don't have the same thing, the same thoughts. We don't have a lot of, none of us think the same. So when you try to breed or try to mind meld people into like drones that all think alike, you kind of foster this environment of of a group think. And when you have group think, I think a group think can be far more damaging just because of how tribal people can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where things go off the hinges. So when they say that individualism can be more damaging than, going along with the crowd, I cannot agree with that, because I am my own person. You are your own person. We all have our own individual ideas and values. And, I mean, I think, to be completely honest, many of them align, you know, but I think our individuality is balanced far, far, way more to a way far better degree when we understand that even though we are different people, we still will have many things in common which can join us together. And it's the
Oh yeah.
fact that we have these differences that can help us create a better tomorrow. And I don't know.
Differences lead to commonalities.
Correct.
I know,
And
and
I
so
think,
like, oh, go ahead, finish.
oh no, well, no, I was just gonna say, and I think that I just think that, yes, there is a certain degree of there's a certain degree of tribalism going on right now, obviously, with the way, we got liberal, we got conservative, we got, you
Careful, let's
know
not toe that
I
political
oh
line there, buddy.
I'm trying to, what you call, but we got, this side of the ticket, and then we got this side of the ticket, and it's like, when are we going to think that, when are we going to, like, when are we going to realize that we don't need to have the same ideas in order to function? You get what I'm saying? When are we going to realize that?
100%, dude, 100%. And it's like, I was having, and I've mentioned this once before in a previous episode. I was having a conversation with my daughter. She's talking about her and one of her, besties, how they always get into an argument about they disagree on this, that, and the other. I'm like, I said, that's not a bad thing. It's our good friend Brian and I, when we get together, we discuss, hypothetical situations or topics or, areas of interest. Like we talk about guns and like trucks and Jeeps and like off-road type stuff and how we would do things differently, just so that we talk about that. And by doing so, you get a sense of, commonality of like, okay, I can understand where you're coming from. They can understand where I'm coming from. So on and so forth. And another great example is like when you go
It
to
is
like a Jeep.
okay to agree to disagree.
Exactly. Another great example being like when you have like Jeep clubs. Everybody sets up their Jeep just a little bit differently. Some people are going for this kind of function, others are going for that kind of function. And like it's cool because you get an idea of like what you can do and what you could potentially do down the road by going, I never thought about that. I'm so glad I got to see that. Say, thanks for sharing that with me. And it's just a wonderful
Mhm.
environment where it fosters so much just, you know, wisdom and learning and all this stuff. It's like if you got guys fighting at a Jeep club thing, it's like what the hell's the world coming to? But yeah, I mean it's okay to disagree, and it's just at that point, this day and age, we've just got so far away from that. If you disagree, it's like, I mean, whether you want to talk political, whether you want to talk, is the sky blue? Yeah,
Anything.
anything.
Anything can turn into into a disagreement that
2 + 2 is 4
can
is
spiral
5.
nowadays.
Not quite. I'd like to,
Yeah.
and like it just leads. All right, we're gonna get back on track here and moving
Squirrel.
along. Squirrel. Um, 6, the young. There was disagreement about whether young people were victims or villains. Some blame the young for antisocial behavior, binge drinking, violence, and gun and knife crime. One said, quote, young people have no manners, no self-control, no respect for anything. Others felt that the young are failed by their families and the school system, as well as being misrepresented. Quote, there is a wealth of potential in young people, another participant said. They tend to be stigmatized rather than encouraged. I mean, that's also a very valid point. I can definitely see both sides of that. Young people, yeah, you're young, you're stupid. You have to be young and dumb to be old and wise. They just have to get to being old and wise. But first, you have to be young and ridiculously stupid. That's how you learn. I almost died once. Now I know not to do that. Okay, cool. But do I feel like the young people get so stigmatized? Yeah. I saw something great today that I kind of felt like, oh, that hits so hard, and I don't want it to. I'm at that age in my life where I'm young to old people, but I'm old to young people, and I'm just like, fuck, I wish that didn't apply. It's just like, yeah, you know.
Were you born in the 1900s?
Shut up. That was such a good smacking noise. Oh, the sound clip on that was awesome. Yeah. Number 7, misuse of drugs and alcohol. The misuse of drugs and alcohol were seen as very damaging to society, chiefly because of the links to violent crime and social behavior. Substance abuse was defined as a cause of ill health, poverty, and family breakdown. However, drug and alcohol abuse were also seen as stemming from family breakdown, weak communities, child abuse, domestic violence, poverty, stress, unemployment, lack of opportunity. I mean, a lot of these things that we're talking about from this article have a lot of intrinsic connection there, because it's like you can't talk about one without the other. Yes, drug and alcohol, you can talk about that causing family breakdown, but also family breakdown could cause drugs and alcohol. It's like, I'm sure we've all met somebody like got into drinking in high school or at a young age because family life was kind of effed up, or this, that, or the other. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that's kind of just you go through that rebellious phase, and that's just a way of like raging against the machine, so to speak, and just trying to figure yourself out. Just talking about my daughter going to middle school next year, and I'm like, oh, those 3 years are going to be awful. Middle school was terrible.
Middle school was terrible.
It's like, you just want to get out here and go to high school just because high school gets better. There's just so much more memories. I can't think of any one good thing
this year, and I'm just like, oh god.
Hold on to your lily white butts. Man, I've been sweating all day. It's been so freaking hot outside. It's awful.
Yeah.
Number 8, poverty and inequality. Participants from disadvantaged backgrounds described poverty as a trap, constraining people's lives and limiting their aspirations. Poverty was also seen as, quote, the keystone to other social problems, end quote. One example given was how in a deprived community, making money from the drug dealing can seem an appealing option for young people. It was felt that growing inequality in the UK was socially divisive and morally wrong. One older participant, a carer, I don't know what that means. One older participant said, if you are poor, that you are struggling all the time. You have no choices in life. That's what poverty does to you.
I feel like with British, that might be something akin to like a housekeeper or something like that, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that I go back and look at it again, it's like, okay, that's probably what that means.
Yeah.
How's going on? Oh, there it is. Number 9, immigration and responses to immigration. Some interviewees saw immigration itself as a social evil. In their view, immigration led to more competition for limited resources such as housing and jobs, and Britons lost out. Others highlighted the economic and social advantage that immigration brought to Britain and were critical of intolerant and negative attitudes towards immigrants and others seen as outsiders. Number 10, crime and violence. It is generally felt that Britain is a more dangerous and violent place than it used to be. People expressed anxiety about the perceived prevalence of violence, aggression, and crime. Connections were made between drug use, gang culture, and crime, with drug use also being seen as connected to prostitution and the sexual exploitation of young girls. Child abuse and violence towards women were cited as specific crimes seen as absolute wrongs. So, modern evils, yes. I mean, like, I really, and I don't mean to toe that line again, but I was reading something. There was a video that I came across somewhere on my, I think it was Facebook, and it was Jillian Michaels, who was like the fitness guru. She was on a bunch of like different catalogs and whatnot, different publications or whatnot, and so she was talking about why she left California, and it was pretty brutally honest, blunt conversation. She's like, I check a lot of boxes that would seem like I really fit in there, but if I'm leaving, it's like it's okay because of all the evil shit. And she's like, it's not the fact that I've changed; it's a lot of stuff that's changed around me. Apparently back in 2020, a law was passed. There were some laws that are, pretty divisive in nature, just by looking at them and stuff. She's like, it would make sense if they were for good reasons. It's just to make things weird or whatnot. Like, it's like they made like they kind of like decriminalized like sex workers or some stuff, so like prostitutes and whatnot. And she's like, okay, yeah, let's get, and if she's like, if it was for, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, so please don't take this to be the gospel of what she said, but she was like, if it was for the benefit of like making sure these girls were getting checked out and you were going to be at a lower risk of catching STDs and taking pimps and those kind of abusive people out of the picture, that was fine. It's so they can loiter legally on the street without having to get harassed by the man and the cops. And it's just like, oh, okay.
Wow.
And there was a couple other examples which I don't want to go into because it's going to be like some polarizing stuff. So like you have to find the video.
Yeah.
She's having a conversation with somebody. But like it's like, yeah. But I mean, the thing with evil, like you have to kind of know it's everywhere. Sometimes we don't want to see what's in front of us. But there are evil people everywhere. There's evil people in the government. There's evil people in politics. And we're going to make that a general statement and move on.
Yeah.
There's evil people that might be involved in education, religion. You take your pick. They're fucking everywhere. Okay. The best thing you can do to safeguard yourself against that is just have an idea of who you are, what you stand for. Having your morals and your core beliefs is such a just essential part of growing up. My daughter tells me all the time, she's like, I don't want to grow up. I'm like, well, you don't have to grow up.
Too bad, so sad, kiddo.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, you need to kind of grow up because this world expects you to, and you kind of need to be able to look out for yourself. So,
and it's funny too, because like not to sidestep, I would say like the whole religious thing or anything like that too much. But I mean, you got to remember, like, I mean, I think pretty much every faith has, it's good and it's evil. You know what I mean? And, as myself being, a Christian, I'm not, and again, here's the thing. I'm not preaching to anybody on anything. I am not the most, on point Christian as I should be. I just do the best I can.
It's like that lady said on the Ellen DeGeneres show. I love Jesus, but I drink a little bit.
Yeah, I do the best I can. We are told that evil exists, and I think I walk into every day thinking, there's a spiritual battle going on with everything. You know what I mean? So for me, it comes down to if obviously there's good, which, for me being in my faith, good is, obviously the one and only good. And then obviously there's evil. So within the spiritual realm, if obviously there's good and then there's evil. Um, that I don't can exist in the in between. Especially in the society with the way you see things going and the way things have panned out. I mean, I think it was October 7th, right? Take October 7th. And this is a really touchy point for people. Um, like it or not, anybody out there, it's still evil. Um, and I know other people that have had issue with the things going on the other side. Um, and I would say, yeah, uh, it- death on either side is equally tragic, you know, equally, equally evil. And the reason violence exists in our world today is because as human beings, we inherently have that evil capacity within us to do evil things. Um, it's the fight that honestly we face every day, that we have to find it within our hearts. Whether again, if you're someone like me, you find that faith through you find that through your faith by trusting in who the one true God. Or if you know just from a moral standpoint, you know you just have to acknowledge that evil, just have to acknowledge that there's good and then there's evil. My thing is, if you're that person in the in between, which I think many people, like a vast majority of people they have gotten to that point where it's like, oh, it's all gray. No, homie. I no. You ever heard of the yin and the yang? No. No way in hell. No, sir. There is good, and you better damn believe there indeed is evil. And if you don't learn how to discern or, uh, you know, acknowledge that fact and point it out in your life, you're gonna have a real hard time. You really are. Um, do you still want to cover those other two articles, or you think we're running a little higher, running a
No,
little?
I think we're okay. I'm okay with this going a little bit longer. I really don't care.
Okay, cool.
But
Because
I think something I want to double tap on what you said though. You're talking about the yin and the yang, and that brings up a good point. Is like balance. Earlier in the article when it was talking about drug dealing is from bad families, but bad families can lead to kids doing drug stuff. It's all about balance. No matter what we talk about, like, and it just kind of reminded me, like, yeah, there's a lot of evil, but there's also a lot of good in the world. And I think, like, my younger brother, without airing out his personal business on the show, he's got some stuff going on that it's been a big weight on his shoulders. And like for the first, couple days of this ordeal, it seemed like it was he kind of felt defeated, deflated, like the wind was out of his sails. He's just
as
in a
could happen.
boat in a calm ocean. There's no current, there's no wind, nothing. You're just sitting there cooking under the sun, going, "Well, shit." And I try to remind him. I was like, again, I am not a practicing Christian. I have my own beliefs. I have my own kind of system of what I think is there. I don't really follow any type of organized religion. I do my best to talk to the Lord, the man upstairs, every single day on my own, and just kind of be thankful for what I'm thankful for, all that kind of stuff. But it was, he was telling me today, he's like, we finally had some stuff go around, finally got some traction. There's some stuff, kind of spinning in the right direction and whatnot. And I'm like, good, man, that's awesome. And it was just so so good to hear that, you know, something was kind of going, because he, like I said, he just felt like she's like, you know, what always happens when something goes bad, you're just like, oh, what else? And then fucking what else?
You start to feel like you're about to be defeated. Yeah.
Right.
You start to feel that creeping
And
in.
I'm sure he felt that way. He was just like, oh, just kind of like get ready to give up and stuff. And I was like, dude, I said, you can't. I said, you know, there's a lot of negativity around you right now. I said, give it time. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, you know, it takes a little period of adjustment to get things going in the right direction and whatnot. And things just kind of starting to spin in the positive, you know, in the right direction and whatnot. You know, people have reached out and said, hey, I can help with this, I can help with that. And he's just like, wow, that's awesome. I'm like, dude, I said, that's how you know when people are like, you know, you can count on. When there's all this evil and stuff, these other people will come in and just be like, hey, man, I got you. Like, literally, you're down, you're laying face down in the mud. You're covered. You're just like, I can't go on any further. Somebody's going to reach down with that proverbial hand and just be like, I've got you. Let's go. Pick you up, and grab your fists and shake you off and give you hugs. Like, let's do this together. It's like that. There's that great scene where one of the soldiers in Easy Company gets chastised by Captain Sobel. He's like, what are you doing here? I want to be in the airborne, sir. Why are you here? I want to be in the airborne, sir. Okay, show me. You got 1 hour. Up 3 miles up, 3 miles back. Up Currahee and back. And it wasn't just him. The guys in his like fire team ended up showing up, and they were like, we're not going to let you go through this alone. I mean, as evil and vindictive that son of a bitch Sobel was, it's like, on the good side, you know, a lot of people have said that's what made Easy Company, the soldiers of Easy Company, tough and able to survive the harshness and the brutalness of the war. When they jumped in on D-Day and afterwards and stuff. It's like,
and it's been told, like, you know, some of those guys actually, you know, they talk about him later on in life, and they said that, like, you know, he was one of the best damn trainers that they ever had. You know,
terrible leader,
like, terrible
good
leader,
trainer,
but damn good trainer. You know.
You know what's funny? Like, I know David Schwimmer is a great actor. He played Ross on Friends and whatnot. But I see him, I'm like, fuck you, Sobel. And I'm just like, that's so dumb. But I'm just like, you're such a shithead, Sobel. Like, I'm just like, I want to scream at him. I'm like, he was just playing a character. He was just a dude. He was just a dude playing another dude. You know, it's like, he's not the evil guy here. The guy he portrayed was just an evil sumbitch. You know. But yeah, I mean,
dude playing a dude that think he another dude.
I wasn't trying to go all that way, but
oh my god, that's literally what he said in the movie.
I know. But I mean, and I will say this, if you're one of those people, I don't want to call you naive, but I just want to say, I'm going to strenuously disagree with you. If you don't think evil exists, I would encourage you to go somewhere like the Holocaust Museum in St. Pete, or if you can swing it, go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I went up there with my daughter's mother. She was still pregnant with our daughter at the time. We went up there to DC for a week. It was like, you know, we're going to take a vacation. Not going to be able to do this for a while when we have a toddler, when we have an infant. So we're like, let's do it now. Okay, cool. So we flew in on Monday, and it was like the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination. It was like 2013 November or so.
Dang.
And the first thing we did was we went to the Holocaust Museum that Tuesday. Like, we kind of we flew in on Monday, kind of got situated at our place we were staying at. And then Tuesday, like, we went out. First thing we did was a Holocaust Museum. And like, we were there for a couple hours, and like, that is some heavy, heavy stuff. Like, they have, so the one in St. Pete is also good. It's just not as in depth. So when you get to the end of the Holocaust Museum in St. Pete, they have an actual train car from the death trains that took people of Jewish descent into the concentration camps where they were most likely murdered.
Yeah.
That's heavy enough.
Mm-hmm.
The one in DC also has a train car, but wait, there's more. They have a iron grate walkway where you can actually walk through the train car, and you see people scribing their names like, "Dear God, please help me, help me, help me get out of this." And it's literally like claw marks where they're trying to scratch your way out of these freaking rail cars, and it's just like, holy shit! Like, it's just awful. And then you
Yeah.
go, and there's one room where they like have nothing, but it's like nothing but gold fillings out of like they took the fillings out of these people's mouths, and it's there, or jewelry, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, it's heavy. Like, and I didn't notice it at first, but on the outside of it, there's a, a large amount of benches, and it's like it kind of seems like a lot of benches for like the layout and like the agricultural layout and like the design of the stuff on the outside. Well, it's because like when you come out of there, man, you gotta like sit down and get your fucking head right. You're just like, it's like when guys go to like SEER school, they usually get like 30 days off to kind
A
of like
lot of heavy energy with stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
You just feel it.
Oh man, it's like it's just straight up. But they have like a small, and it's cool because they have a small version of the Wailing Wall, where like you can actually go and you can like write a prayer there, and like go up there and pray, and you have a room of reflection where you just go in there. It's like stuff like that. Like there's a lot of Or going to the Vietnam Wall, seeing how many guys died in Vietnam. It's like 62,000 people that died during Vietnam. It's like they weren't killed by accident, they were killed because some fucking evil sons of bitches out there.
Yeah. And that brings us to our next heavy part. Now, whether or not people are actually familiar with it, I know you're kind of with it, right?
Yeah.
That brings us to a time in history that is referred to as the Rape of Nanking. Which brings us to an article. I'll actually share this one because it's actually a fairly short one.
The Project Muse article.
Yeah, it's actually a fairly old article, but it's still a relevant article because it still has some fairly interesting and relevant information in it. Essentially, all right, here's what it says. Okay. Almost everyone today is familiar with the dark chapter of history from 1939 to 1945 when Hitler's army rolled across Europe, claiming the lives of millions of people, including 6 million Jews. However, very few people are aware of what happened to millions of people in China from 1937 to 1945. Iris Chang's The Rape of Nanking is a landmark work because it finally reveals the least remembered and perhaps the most gruesome horrors of the Second World War. The atrocities committed by the Japanese Imperial Army on innocent Chinese civilians. Chang's book is also important in searching for the reasons behind the Japanese barbarity. The Rape of Nanking contains a chilling description of what happened to the Chinese civilians and soldiers who were unable to escape the walled city of Nanking. I think nowadays it's known as Nanjing. I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was something. They ended up changing the name somewhere along a certain period. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. The capital of the Kuomintang government after its fall to the Japanese in December 1937. Based on a German eyewitness diary, interviews with survivors in Japanese soldiers' journals, the evidence is beyond doubt. Over the subsequent 6 weeks, the Japanese army, under direct orders from Prince Asaka of the imperial family, senselessly massacred over 350 Chinese civilians and soldiers, all of whom were disarmed and helpless. To put things in perspective, in those 6 weeks, the Japanese slaughtered over 3 times as many people as the United States lost in 12 years in the Korean Vietnam Wars combined. Chang adds more perspective to the death toll. Quote, "It is shocking to contemplate that the deaths at Nanking far exceeded the deaths from the American raids on Tokyo. An estimated 80,000 to 120,000 deaths, and even the combined death toll of the 2 atomic blasts at Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the end of 1945, estimated at 140 to 270,000 respectively. The cruelty by which the Chinese were killed further unveils the barbarity of the Chinese army. Mass samurai-style beheadings, gasoline dousing, and burning of roped captives."
Wait a minute. So, okay. So you said something kind of stranger. You said the cruelty by which the Chinese were killed further unveils the barbarity of the Japanese army. You said the Chinese army, and I was like, that doesn't sound.
Did I say the Chinese?
You did. I was just
so the Japanese army. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Especially when you said
the
samurai
Japanese
afterwards, I was like, huh? So, go ahead.
I didn't catch that. I didn't know I said that. Excuse me. So, mass training for Japanese infantry and grenade launchings, all directed at escaping Chinese swimming the Yangtze River, were just a few of the Japanese methods, Chang writes. Yeah, Yangtze. Not only did live burials, castration, the carving of organs, and the roasting of people become routine, but more diabolical tortures were practiced, such as hanging people by their tongues on iron hooks, or burying people to their waists and watching them get torn apart by German shepherds. So sickening was the spectacle that even the Nazis in the city were horrified, one proclaiming the massacre to be the work of bestial machinery. Worse still, the massive rapes committed on 20,000 to 80,000 Chinese women, many of whom were killed afterwards, showed the absolute disregard for human dignity exhibited by the Japanese soldiers. Other shocking means of the torture and death employed by the Japanese are also described by Chang, but too horrendous to recall here. What is even more horrific about the rape of Nanking is that it was the rule, not the exception, during Japan's occupation of China. The reason why the Nanking massacre has been documented at all was the presence of foreigners in the capital city, many of whom heroically saved the lives of thousands of Chinese. According to Chang, because the Japanese had an ingrained sense of racial superiority, where have we heard that before, which was fronted when the Chinese refused to capitulate. Indeed, they resisted furiously when the imperial army marched into China. Someone had to pay. The rape of Nanking occurred in part because the Chinese fought valiantly for 13 weeks in Shanghai, dashing any hopes the Japanese had of ending the conquest of China in the predicted 3 months. Chang describes vividly that when Shanghai fell, the mood of the imperial troops had turned ugly, and many, it was said, lusted for revenge as they marched toward Nanking. After American pilots involved in the Doolittle raid on Tokyo were rescued by Chinese soldiers and villagers, for example, these launched a punitive expedition. Now, that is just snippets of uh things that I've read about and things that I have heard on podcasts. Um, I mean, if I there was one where I remember like it talked about how some of the Japanese soldiers actually were they actually were cutting the breasts off of some of their female victims. Um, it, it I mean, the evil in someone's heart to have to be able to do any of those things that were described. You know what I mean? And again, this is like a lot of people don't realize this, but the Japanese themselves actually had their own experimental unit, that essentially their own SS. Um, I can't remember if it was called Unit 341 or something to that nature, but it was, I mean, it was brutal, man. The guy that was leading it was taking Chinese
Unit
victims.
731.
731. Thank you. And this guy, I mean, he would take people, infest them with mites, get them infected with plague-ridden fleas,
So let
blow
me
up
interrupt you
grenades.
real
This is
quick.
what they would do to people. It was, I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. Terrible.
I
Terrible.
was
Terrible.
watching something earlier, and I think it was Heather Lynn. She's the one that's like involved with the guys from Black Rifle.
Yes.
The bitter barista. So she
Yep.
was talking about that earlier. She goes, she mentioned that at one point, and she goes, I'm not mentioning that to get a laugh. I'm mentioning that because there's never really been any type of accountability for that kind of crap. And
Sure weren't.
and
I mean,
she
there
said
were arrests, but not like not
not
anything where it was like
substantial.
fully publicized.
Right. She said, those sick bastards torture people. That's how we know that the body is made up of 70% water. I'm just like, oh God, that just conjures all kinds of images up. It's just like, yikes.
It's terrible. And I mean, they specialized in they were specializing in biological weaponry. God knows if things were found that other governments or even our government found that were useful. You know what I mean? And by the way, I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying they were things, records that were commandeered, and nobody knows what that was. These are just things that were reported by survivors. It's scary stuff, man. It's absolute scary stuff. And this is that thing that I'm saying. Like, if you're a person that's that's in the middle saying like, oh, there's no good or evil, everything's just a gray area, blah 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 blah. Evaluate history, man. That like you cannot, like, that kind of savagery. You can't explain that without using the word evil. You just cannot. That kind of depravity is just unfathomable. Like you how can you hear something like that and be like, it's a gray area? I don't understand. I don't think I ever will if someone ever says that it's a gray area for something like that. I can't.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, like it's such a bummer that it's just so like just awful that we're so easy as humans that we can be destructive and stuff. It's like it takes effort for us to be constructive and like positive. It's just like it's one of those things. Like it's humanity.
Yeah.
So. I mean, but there's plenty of people you can go and look up that are just like they're just evil. I mean, Jesus, when your own people in your own army are trying to kill you, like Operation Valkyrie, because you're just that much of an evil son bitch. It's like, okay, maybe they're seeing
Yeah.
something. So yeah, but so in closing, I would say, just keep your eyes open, people. It's like there's evil everywhere. I mean, for veterans, evil is in a lot of different places. There's a lot of, you know, folks. There's a lot of organizations and folks that try to extort or um, take advantage of people that are in our community, the military community, the veteran community, all that kind of stuff. Follow your heart, man. If you feel like something's is not right, check it. Just be like, hey, let's talk about this for a minute. There's
Yeah.
I would like to think that there's not evil people in the military, but I'm like, there's a lot of people that, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of like there's going to be somebody. So there's a lot of toxic leadership out there.
Man.
Yeah. So just, keep your head on a swivel. Just understand that, like, hey, like, there's a lot of evil in there. And sometimes the worst part of it is the evil's in here. Sometimes it's a lot of evil, just years of being on deployments and just a lot of feelings and a lot of things that don't get the kind of attention they need in due fashion, and it can cause a lot of chaos, a lot of problems. So
yeah,
we just have to make sure that we look out for one another, do the things like I said, try to be compassionate towards others. You can't help everybody. You can't save every puppy from the pound, but like you can at least try. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So.
There's always something you can do, man. I mean, there's plenty of, nonprofits, charities, things like that you can do, that you can support, to just help other people get out of those situations that they're in that involve. I mean, this is like, a percentage of just evil acts that don't get talked about.
We're just scratching the surface. Like, there's a lot of evil shit out there.
And I'm not gonna lie, I did want to go into the human trafficking end of it, but at the same time, I was just like, that might be touchy, just because you're talking about children. You know what I mean? Like that.
I think we can kind of encompass that and keep it under the umbrella of just talking about evil. So
Yeah, and it's just
kind of glad we did.
That's a sad situation, and again, it's a depraved mind that does the things to these poor damn kids that have the things happening to, like, I'm trying to say it without saying it. I don't want to be too, because I've unfortunately seen a lot of research on this stuff, and it's the kind of stuff that'll make your heart hurt. And children are innocents, man. They don't deserve those things. And they should never go through those kind of things. But unfortunately, again, it goes back to our argument. Evil exists. And we here with this podcast, we encourage all of our listeners. We encourage anyone who's watching, if you guys feel or find, an organization that you feel supports, those that are in need in any one of the situations that, we kind of covered, whether it's, something that's going on war crimes wise, because remember, it's all over the world. I myself, and I don't want to speak for Mac, obviously, but I'm pretty sure he's of the same mindset that, we encourage you full-heartedly, man. Go support it. And if you can contribute, your time and effort to it as well, I mean, hell, do that too, because it's something that needs to be done. There's got to be some light combating the darkness. And if that light in the darkness is calling you to do so, to be to be part of that light, then go for it, man. Because especially nowadays, there's just a lot of darkness. We gotta find a way to confront it.
I want to end the show by reciting a quote that I read for the first time many, many years ago, and it's just kind of hit home more and more and more as I get older and go through my life. If you've ever seen the movie Tears from the Sun, fantastic movie by Anton Fuqua. Bruce Willis is in it. He plays a Navy SEAL detachment commander, Navy SEAL team leader. They go and they're doing an American citizen recovery in war-torn Africa. And they end up having to they go off script because they don't really, they're like, hey, I can't just look at what's going on here. I can't look at these people as just packages anymore. I can't look at them as just cargo. They're fucking people. And it's a really compelling story. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, accomplishing the mission versus following your heart, doing the right thing is good on the inside. And it's a great movie, a bit graphic. It's got some more violence in it, obviously. But at the very end, it has a quote that is absolutely applicable to our conversation tonight, and it's from Edmund Burke. And the quote goes like this: "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And that's where we're at. So,
yep.
As we mentioned earlier, and as we mentioned at the end of every show, this show got started off of a tragedy. We lost a good friend of ours named John. John was a guy that Alamo and I both worked with. Great dude, just funny as hell, full of piss and wind and vigor. God, we had some dumb fun at work, man. Like, just doing dumb shit. Like, we would go to work, it's like, I get paid. I'm not getting paid to do this, but I get paid to freaking just to enjoy this. And this is, like, awesome. Would have given you the shirt off his back. And unfortunately, John's one of those guys that, lost that fight with the evil inside and solved the temporary problem with a permanent solution.
Yep.
And that's just, it's shitty because John was a guy worth knowing. I would give anything just to hear him go, that laugh and him go, hey, yeah, nice. Just anytime you told a good story or like a funny joke, he would just crack up. Just right there with you, man. Just good fucking dude, man. So when Alamo and I talked about, getting the band back together and doing something together, it's like, what do you want to do? It's like, I don't know, we could do a podcast or something. It's like, I don't know shit about that. Alamo very famously said, dude, they put a monkey in outer space. How hard can it be? For some reason, I looked at him, I was like, there's a lot of wisdom in that statement. It's like, all right, yeah, totally. So we kind of came up with the idea of this, and we found out about John. And then afterwards, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, that was like the catalyst moment, that kind of the spark that started all of it. So in the process of this, we came up with the Bros Code. Came up with the idea for the name, the Battle Bros, because Alamo is, we're not related by blood, but he's been there for me long enough that I consider him my brother. And we look out for each other as such. But
look out for each other and such.
Why do you sound like a Canadian guy all of a sudden? I didn't say talking like the dude from Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like crap.
You live finally.
Now it's the coach from Waterboy. Lovely.
Live finally.
Home away, make it. What? Anyway, so we came up with this idea for the Bros Code. And what the Bros Code is, it's 4 easy things to remember. And if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like there's no way out, if you're feeling like giving up. These are 4 easy things you can remember just to keep yourself here, to keep yourself in the moment and looking forward to a brighter tomorrow. Okay. So again, BROS, easy to remember. B, be tenacious. No matter what you do in life, do it to the fullest of your abilities. Don't go and just kind of get into things and kind of like, I think I'll try it. Dive into it, get into the deep end of the pool, sink or swim kind of thing. Obviously, we want you to swim.
That part.
And that goes for anything, whether you're being a parent, whether you're being there for somebody, if you're just listening to somebody, give that person your time. Time is the one resource you can't ever get back, but you can give to somebody else, and it pays off in dividends. Give somebody your time, listen to them vent, and just get all the weight off of their chest and their shoulders. And they're just like, yeah, I feel better, No matter what you do, just do it to the fullest of your abilities. No, you better you better not. You don't even sit there and tell me that you like what you like. I don't give a shit right now. Just shut up. Let me talk. You can't see him. If you can't see him, he's getting ready to do the sling blade thing and talk about some, all that
French
kind of. No. In the words of the great Ron Swanson that we quote every day, every week we do this show, don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. And that speaks volumes to people. Be tenacious. All right, refuse to surrender. When things happen, like I talked about with my younger brother this week, things happen, kind of gave him a bit of pause, and, he kind of felt defeated. Don't give up. Don't feel like it's going to, it's okay to feel like it's going to get you down, but don't give in. Don't let it beat you. Keep yourself upright. Keep yourself oriented in the right way. Sometimes you might have to pull out your map. You might have to pull out your compass and your protractor and go, okay, I was a little off course, but I'm on the right path. Shoot your azimuth, DD Mal. Refuse to surrender. Okay. Obliterate your obstacles. When those things do happen, sometimes they take different shapes. Sometimes you have to go off the path through the woods to get back onto the path a quarter mile down. Sometimes you have to climb over a wall. Sometimes you have to climb around a wall. Sometimes you have to dig under a wall. And sometimes you do what this guy did here. Drive a freaking armored vehicle into the back of a building and knock the wall down. Oops. Okay, cool. Awesome. Sometimes you got to breach with C4 and Bangalores. But it's not as fun as driving a vehicle backwards into a wall. So, no matter what happens, obliterate your obstacles, and then, continue your mission, hit the objective, hit the X, go from there, okay? S, seek out help in a time of need. Like we talked about with our friend John, there's nothing we wouldn't give to keep John here. But that's just impossible. He's no longer with us, but we can keep him alive every time we talk about him on the show, keep him alive in our minds and our hearts and all that good stuff. Don't feel like you have to go it alone. Humans were social creatures by design. Okay, we do better in a group. The worst thing they can do to a person when he's in prison, stick him in solitary confinement, stick him in, the hole or the pokey or whatnot. There's times that we go through all kind of different things in life. Okay, and sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody about those things. I know if I have an issue, this is probably one of my first 3 phone calls with this guy right here, if not the first one or within the first 2. There's just no reason for it. There's plenty of options out there. It doesn't have to be, a certain specific someone. It can be anybody you feel comfortable talking to, somebody that you trust to give you a sounding board to talk and say, hey man, I got this issue that's bugging me. I'd like to get your honest opinion on it. No holds barred, just give it to me straight. Fuck feelings. Just tell me the truth. What you think? And that can be anybody. It can be a coworker. It can be, somebody served in the military, a family member, a loved one, a close friend, whatever it looks like. Just don't feel like you have to go it alone. If you ever go down that path where you feel like you're going to do something like, I don't need to be here anymore. First off, wrong answer. Secondly, there are options out there if you don't feel like you have anybody there. If you ever feel like you're going to harm somebody and you don't have anybody to call, there's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline that you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call it one of two ways. You can dial the 800 number at 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255 or 800-273-TALK, Tango Alpha Lima Kilo. Okay. You dial 1 and then somebody will connect to you momentarily. You can also dial, because everybody goes, a lot of people nowadays use text message and they're just texters as opposed to people that want to talk on the phone. You can dial 988. Again, that's 988. You can also text that number as well, and somebody will be on there with you as soon as possible. Again, this hotline is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are trained professionals that are there to help you in a time of crisis. Use that. We do not need to make this number any worse. On average, 22 military veterans a day commit suicide, and that's a travesty of a number. But when you know one of those 22, that's when it really hurts, because you start to ask yourself, man, what could I have done different? Could I have talked to him? I feel out of touch. I feel bad. I'm still here. He was going through something I didn't even know. I feel like a shit friend. You can spiral very, very easily thinking that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Don't allow yourself to do that. Every veteran, every person is a resource. Every person here deserves to be here. You deserve to have your story told. We want to hear about it and all that good stuff. Okay, so just remember, you're not alone. Sharing is caring, yes, and not saying that in a jokingly sarcastic way, but we're also saying it very serious. Like, hey, man, like, share the load. Like, those guys that came in with the one dude in Easy Company who had to run up Curry Heat. They're like, we're going to go through this together. We're not going to let you go through it alone. You don't do it
alone in the military. You don't do it alone you don't do it alone
in life.
Side.
Yeah, don't do it alone in life. So if you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need, you're going to have a pretty damn good shot about being okay. It might not be immediate, it might not be all the way, but it's going to at least get you moving in the right direction. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to hand it off to my cohort here. He's going to finish up this last episode for season 4, and then we're going to get the hell out of here, and we're going to talk about what's coming up next season. So take it away. Yar.
If you would if you would like to catch us over on the social medias, you can do that on the Meta platforms. Number 1 being Facebook. You can catch us over at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also see us on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast. If you're not a big fan of those two, you can catch us over on good old Elon's platform. That would be X, formerly known as Twitter, at Battle Bros PC. You can also contact us via the instant messaging system on all of those platforms, and kind of just drop us a message, drop us some likes, drop us some good commentary down there. Hell, even drop us some show ideas if you want to hear some show topics, right? Just drop them down in the comments, drop them in the instant message board. We're ready to hear them. We want to talk about what you guys want to hear about. If there is what you feel to be someone that you know or yourself is having issues, we do have a private method of you guys being able to contact us, which is our Gmail. You can do that at battlebrospc@gmail.com. Say again, battlebrospc@gmail.com. Don't hesitate. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. That's the one thing I'm going to say. Don't hesitate to, if you feel that you've exhausted your options with family and friends, if you feel like you've exhausted your options calling the suicide hotline or whatever the case may be, and you feel like you have nobody else to turn to, whether that be for yourself, your family, your friends, whatever, drop us a message in the drop us a message in the Gmail. Um, Hell, we'd be willing to conversate with you. We'd be willing to talk to you, even if it's just through email and whatever. Look, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This podcast is really about just building a community. Um, Obviously, our focus for the most part is on veterans and first responders. Um, but hey, man, if you're one of those people, even if you've never served but you're just having issues right now, look, man, everybody's going through something. Everybody's got their own fight, their own struggle. Um, you know, just let us know, man. Let us know let us know what you're feeling, or let us know what the person that you're trying to contact for is feeling. Um, and just let's try and get you or others feeling a little bit better, man. We want to do the best we can at bringing people together and making them know, like, hey, you're worth it, and there's a reason why you're here, and it's not to take yourself out of the equation. um if you like hearing our silly voices, um you can catch us obviously here on the YouTube at during season, every Friday night at 9. um I will be working very tirelessly on making sure that our episodes get uploaded onto Spotify. And from there, it will automatically upload to many of our other platforms, vis-a-vis iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, um, oh boy, I can't even remember all of them now. I know there's quite a few.
Stitcher, Rumble, Apple
Stitcher,
Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Yes. On the Rumble side, I'm gonna have to go backward and I'm gonna have to do a lot of downloading, uploading for every single episode that we have, because for whatever crazy reason on the Rumble, if you guys want to catch us on the Rumble, you can still do that. You can watch our previous episodes. All you got to do is go to rumble.com, search Battle Bros, all one word, and you'll find all of our videos right there. Some crazy reason our episodes are not automatically uploading anymore, so I'm gonna have to while we're on break sort that part out. But other than that, that is everywhere you can catch us. Just make sure you drop a like, hit subscribe, do some comments in the comment section too, because obviously if you do comments in the comment section, it's going to help us get recognized a little bit more, to get picked up by the algorithm a little bit more. And that helps out a lot, especially in spreading the message. Other than that, I got nothing.
So I will say this, as Alamo mentioned, we talked about a break. So this is the last episode of season 4, episode 088. You just watched and listened to the episode on Evil. Because of the fact that we are now right at the beginning of the school year, we're going to be taking the next 4 weeks off at least. We are shooting to return with season 5's first episode on 13th September, so Friday the 13th. That wasn't planned; it just happened that way. But okay, quit it, weirdo. It's September, not October. Anyway, that's going to give us some time, like Alamo said, to kind of make sure all of our episodes are getting uploaded to Spotify, so we get caught up on that. We've had some issues with that since we came back. So that's one of our big hot button items that we're going to try to get done. But the big thing is just kind of getting our kids back into school. My daughter starts school back on Monday. So just want to kind of get back in the routine. Here's YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not looking forward to it. Traffic's going to be ridiculous out here.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But doesn't your oldest go to school at a later time now because of middle school?
He does. He takes the bus.
Oh. First time doing that?
Oh, yeah. He's going to be taking the bus.
That'll be interesting. So
Mhm.
anyway, like I said, so we're not going anywhere. We're just taking a little bit of a sabbatical. Hopefully, a short one, not a long one like we did last time. So again, shooting for return date of 13 September, Friday the 13th, where we're going to talk about whatever tickles our fancy that time. It'll be episode 089, the first episode of season 5, which is just so crazy to think about. But until that time, as we mentioned, feel free to go back, watch or listen to the old episodes that we have on YouTube. You can find them all there. Please remember that, as Almo said and I said, be on the lookout for evil, safeguard your family from evil, defend against evil. Also, just remember that we are not alone. You need to make sure that you have a support system. Everybody deserves to have somebody to lean on every once in a while.
Contingency plan, man. Contingency plan. That's what they teach us in the military.
Pace planning, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. And that's a good way to look at life as well. So, but again, we want to just take a minute and say thank you to everybody that's stuck with us this far. It's wild to believe that we're at the end of season 4. We've done 88 episodes of the show,
and we 12 more down till our centennial.
Yeah, we're gonna hit the century mark here about halfway through the next season. So it's just like wow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have some ideas for things that you want us to talk about, please feel free to get in touch with us on our Facebook page, our Gmail that we mentioned earlier. We are not so big for our britches that we're above the power of suggestion. Please feel free to drop whatever kind of comments you'd like, good, bad, or other. We are still, funny enough, still a growing kind of thing. I mean, hell, we just got business cards for the first time a couple weeks ago. So it's like, hey, things happen a little slow, but they're going good. Boom! Yeah, they are. Bam.
Yeah. Never mind the typo on there. We were
you wouldn't even have saw it if you didn't mention it. So
yeah. Oh yeah, true.
In the meantime, we're looking forward to this time off. We are gonna miss everybody here. 4 weeks, it'll go by quick, I have a feeling. But it's gonna give us the time to just kind of recharge and kind of fill the the emotional tanks back up so that we can come back and hit the ground running hard for the next season and the next 22 episodes we've got planned. Thank you again to everybody for your time, for listening to the show to help moving it forward and passing along to those that may not see it at first. We cannot do what we do without everybody out there, so thank you so much. That's really all that I have. So until we see you next time, just remember, be tenacious. Refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. And if you can remember those things, you're going to be okay, at least until we get back in 4 weeks. So until then, this is the Battle Bros podcast at the completion of season 4. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you soon. Stay safe out there.
Battle Bros out.